Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying. Apologies that I'm in the car again. I don't suppose it really matters, but it just still seems a bit weird doing videos in the car for some reason, even though lots of people on the internet do it. Oh, the big drama today is that I've got a doctor's appointment. They're taking a blood sample, and that means I haven't been able to have breakfast because they wanted me to fast, so I'm hungry. I might even be hangry, but we'll see how that pans out in the video. So let's talk about Rally Portugal, a very exciting and dramatic event, of course, won by Sebastian Ogier, who extended his record in Portugal. Very, very good performance by him, but not the best performance of the weekend, some would say. That was by Tänak. We will come to him. I don't want to talk about the results too much in this video because there's something else that I want to get onto, but before we do that, let's have a quick run through who came where, who did well, and who should have done better. I think it is safe to say that Tänak was hard done by. He had power steering failure, bit of a freak incident, so the steering rack body cracked after an impact with a stone. He was leading the rally and was very comfortable. That let Ogier in through the door, however, and it was just the typical masterclass, wasn't it? He might not have had the speed to beat Tänak, but as all great drivers do, he was there, he was in the mix, and when it all went wrong for Tänak, he was in the right place, wasn't he? And that is how you become an 8-time world champion. That is his one of the secrets to his success. It was one of the secrets to Loeb's success, just always being there consistently at the front and ready to take advantage. So that was what more can you say, really? What more can you say? Tänak fought back to second, obviously very, very impressive from him. Very, very fast on Sunday stages, so he did a great job to recover, but will obviously be very disappointed indeed. In third spot was Tänak and Rovanperä, who also did a very good job, you have to say. Started second on the road behind Elfyn Evans, so could have been further down the order, but, you know, finishing third, he could have finished second, but obviously Tänak was on the charge. That is exactly what he needed, wasn't it? You know, he didn't have the best road position, but he still racked up a decent chunk of points and narrowed that championship gap significantly. So a very, very good performance from him. Less so, however, Elfyn Evans. I said in the preview to this rally that this was all about management for Elfyn Evans. You know, you can look at what Thierry Neuville did last year. He got a good early advantage in the championship and just built from there by being consistent. And I said Elfyn didn't need to win at the weekend, he just needed to score solid points, and I think you unfortunately have to say he didn't really do that. You know, finished down in 6th place. His championship lead has gone from 43 points down to 30 points. We are not at panic stations yet by any means, but that is a bad result for him, obviously with Calais finishing on the podium. You know, maybe the only saving grace for him was obviously the speed of Tänak, who's a bit further down the championship order anyway, and the fact that Ogier won the rally and took a load of points off Evans' championship rivals, but not a great weekend, you know. Like I said, it's not about winning rallies for him right now, it's just about building and consistency and scoring points, and he has to go away from this weekend and review and think, okay, I wasn't comfortable in the car, I couldn't push for as many points as I wanted, but, you know, let's go to the next round and build. He can't let this get into his head. He just has to keep building the points and just keep working away and just maintaining the gap and kind of get through this period of gravel rallies. I think if he can get through the next couple unscathed, then, you know, he's in a good position. So difficult weekend for Evans, a real shame. Also a difficult weekend for Adrian Formeau. I do want to touch him, and I should mention Thierry Neuville as well. Not a great weekend for either of them. Both had moments. Obviously, Formeau ultimately retired from the event because of some, I think it was temperature management issues with the engine, but he'd had some moments. He had shown good speed on Friday, so that was a shame. It's another case of good speed, but no result, isn't it? And Neuville, he was just not there this weekend, was he? He wasn't in the fight. He had a bit of an issue on Friday's opener, wasn't it? A bit of a moment where the car almost tipped a little bit, and he just wasn't there. So a shame for him. He is not looking in a good place to retain his championship crown, is he? Unfortunately, so that is a real shame for him. But he will just have to keep on fighting, which we know he can do. I just want to touch on the M Sport team. Not great for Martin Cesc, because unfortunately we all have high hopes for him when he has his Rally 1 outings, but he had a moment on Friday morning, wasn't it, which kind of he got puncture, so that knocked him out of the fight. And from there, he didn't really set the lightning times. I think he took it more as a glorified test session in the end. So a bit of a shame not to see the usual fireworks there. But the one person I do want to mention from M Sport is Josh McAleen. A very good performance from him. He was the top M Sport driver. You know, we have to remember his complete lack of experience. He is still very much learning to drive a Rally 1 car. So great job from him. Very well done to be the top M Sport car. He was setting faster times than both Cesks and Gregoire Munster. So I think he did a great job, and it's nice to see a bit of momentum building for him. But that isn't what I want to talk about. I want to get on to something a bit more controversial than that, and that is the words of Tänak and Rovanperä in respect of the length of the rally. So Friday turned out to be something of a controversial day. Basically, the day was made up of 3 loops of 3 stages, totaling just under 150 kilometers. We then had 2 20-minute remote services in Argonel. So this was all taking advantage of some rule changes that have allowed organisers to mix up the routes a little bit. And I actually thought it worked rather well. It was something a bit different. I like the addition of remote services. I think that adds a little bit of extra intrigue, and it also adds something for the fans. You know, it's an extra point for them to get a bit closer to the cars and to the drivers. So I thought it worked rather well. Some of the drivers did not think that, however, and were rather vocal. Chiefly among those was the second place man, Tänak. So he spoke to dirtfish.com after the rally, and he said this: we were put basically for 15 hours in the car, and that's it. Yesterday, 15 hours in the car again. At least we could have a lunch, which was already positive. And today, again, the team was not even allowed to give us some food until this moment. So, I mean, in some ways, sometimes I feel that we have been treated like animals a bit, you know, just for the show. Friday, we know we had maximum 8 minutes to have a quick snack, and not even time to take a leak. It wasn't just Tänak either. Rovanperä also had some words to share earlier in the weekend. He had a similar message in his own interview with Dirtfish. He said, "We are always talking about road safety and stuff, and then yeah, we are driving with 4 or 5 hours of sleep during the weekend, many nights in a row. We can do it, but I don't know if it's clever at some point when we try to stay awake on the road sections and stuff. It starts to be at some point quite tough. I think it's just unnecessary to be 15 hours in the car like that." So after those messages of discomfort, shall we say, from a couple of the drivers, it seems that the promoter is already aware of this issue and has had some thoughts of its own. After the rally, they issued a statement, which I will read to you as well, just to continue the reading lesson. So they said, "Following a comprehensive review of the working hours and pressures for employees working in the World Rally Championship, the WRC promoter has generated a report that is currently being reviewed by the key stakeholders. Work is now underway between the FIA, WRC promoter and the competitors to generate a set of guidelines for event organisers to better advise and inform on improving practices when creating itineraries and the schedule of the rally week. The target is to complete these guidelines in the coming months and begin implementation for events of the 2026 season with a long-term view to make improvements and reduce the pressure on employees working within the championship." Well, what do you think about that then? I suspect that you're probably going to have an opinion on those words. I will just say at this point, finally, I've cheated. I had a bit of a pause. I had to go inside and do the appointment, but I did get coffee. So, it's more like a milkshake than coffee, but whatever. So, food interlude aside, do you think that Rovanperä and Tänak are correct to say that Friday was too long? Let me know in the comments below, because I think some of you are going to have something to say about that. My view on it, my view on it is as follows. I get what they're saying about the food thing to some extent. I do understand that. But I don't really have an issue with Friday being really long, or Saturday, because this sport isn't supposed to be easy, is it? Rallying isn't supposed to be easy. I like the fact that we're allowing events to kind of go their own way and create something unique. You know, we need that. We need every rally to have its own identity. You know, Monte Carlo has an identity because of where it's based and the roads in the mountains and the changeable conditions. Sweden has an identity because of the snow. Finland has an identity because of the jumps. But you also need, you know, the route shouldn't be the same. Rallies didn't always follow the exact, excuse me, itchy face, what's going on? Didn't always follow the same format. And I think we should encourage that. So I don't have a problem with the day being long. I think a far bigger issue, you know, if you want to talk about hours that the drivers are having to work, where I think there are some issues, I would argue that the thing we need to be thinking about is the amount of hours that drivers and co-drivers are spending watching onboards. That for me is a far bigger issue that has started to, you know, kind of attack their time in the last few years, and I think that's something that we need to look at. I don't know how we fix it, because I don't know how you police people watching onboard videos, but for me that's a far bigger problem than long days and challenging routes. You know, I think if you look at Dakar or at Le Mans, the drivers relish it. They relish the challenge of the endurance and this, you know, these marathon events. And I think, you know, there is space in WRC to have something similar. So I think we should have long days. You know, yes, could we have given them a little bit more time? Could we have made it a 30-minute service so they had a little bit longer to go and have a pee? Well, maybe, but equally, have a pee by the side of the road, because that's what people used to do. I don't know. I think I'm a little bit torn, you know. I think, like I said, I kind of get the argument for being able to eat and things, but at the same time, this isn't supposed to be easy. You know, if you want something easy, this is offending people who like circuit racing, but, you know, if you want something with a simpler structure, go circuit racing. We do a race for 20 minutes and then you can go to the toilet and sit down and have some lunch. You know, this isn't that. Rallying isn't that, and it's never been that, and it shouldn't ever be that, you know. So I understand why they want to look at it. You know, we should always be in a place where we can review and update and change things and adapt, but at the same time, you know, it's supposed to be difficult, isn't it? Rallying is supposed to be difficult, and I think the drivers need to remember that. You know, most of them, Rovanperä accepted, but, you know, Tänak and that, they're old enough to remember that rallies used to be a lot longer. So for me, I don't know. I think maybe a bit too much is being made of the length of it, and ultimately, you know, maybe they just need to buy a lunchbox. Buy a lunchbox and then you can eat whenever you want. Who knows? Anyway, as I said, let me know what you think in the comments below. Otherwise, I think it was a fantastic Rally Portugal, very enjoyable indeed. Make sure you like and subscribe. We hit through 2,500 subscribers recently, I think, wasn't it? So well done to me. Yay. Thank you for your support for that. I very much appreciate it. Hopefully we can soon hit 3,000 and beyond. Other than that, I think all that remains for me to say is that I will see you in the next one.